Hello, welcome to In the Footsteps of the Goddess, a video series that explores the journey of the divine feminine through patriarchy to a new human consciousness. I'm Hannah Maritz. I'm an artist and a healer, a lover of nature and the divine feminine. As I look around at the disaster we humans have created on this planet through patriarchal thinking and a false narrative about fear and violence and greed, my heart rebels because she knows that that's not who we truly are. It's not to our highest good. And we're capable of so much better than that. As an artist, I've come to realize that art, in all its forms, is an expression of our souls. And our souls are having a human experience. So who are we? And how do we find out? And can art help us understand who we are, where we've been, and where we're going? I know it can. And what I've found is very exciting. And I want to share it with you. But we're going to have to go look for the clues. So I invite you now to come with me. Let's go look for some clues. So let's begin with a simple question. Why is it that we refer to ourselves as mankind? Why not womankind or humankind? Well, wouldn't that be radical? And why is it that our leaders throughout history always seem to be men? Old men who love to send young men to war. And can you name one woman who has ever started a war? And did you know that the leaders of all the other higher animals are always elder females? Higher animals know instinctively that females possess the intuition and wisdom that preserves and nurtures life without ever resorting to war. So what's our excuse? And do you know that the human egg is hundreds of times bigger than a sperm and performs all the cell functions that create a whole new being? So who does all the work and gets so little credit for it? And isn't it curious how the human egg so resembles the first mother, Mother Earth? Like mother, like daughter. And did you know that the mitochondria, the power source of every cell in the body, is located in the tail of the sperm to propel it forward? But after fertilization, both the tail and the mitochondria drop off. That means that all our mitochondria, whether we are male or female, is inherited from our mothers. So where does our power really come from? Well, it comes from the divine feminine, of course. So aren't humans really matrilinear? Yeah, go tell that to the patriarchy. Well, Right about now, you're probably thinking, things have always been like this. We've always had misogyny, child abuse, war, inequality, greed. But I'm not so sure about that. That may just be another patriarchal illusion. Fake news. But there's an alternate hidden story that reveals our real human journey. A very powerful story told by a little goddess of long ago, in a time when the feminine was the miraculous power of creation. A story of human beings living in harmony with themselves, with each other, and with the natural world. And when all life was held sacred. So art has opened up a portal, and I invite you now to step through it with me. Let's follow the breadcrumbs down the rabbit hole, through the looking glass, and in the footsteps of the goddess. Long ago, but not so long ago, God was a goddess, creator of the universe. She ruled every aspect of life, from sovereign to priestess, from healer to life giver and life taker. She ruled the life cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. She embodied the mystery and magic of life itself. But one day, something happened. Someone changed the channel. This looks like the patriarchy channel, the one with an endless loop of destruction, violence, exploitation, and a deep spiritual hunger. Fear is the power driving this channel. It paralyzes people, eats away their integrity and will, devours their ability to think and feel, and it binds them together into mindless patriarchal madness. Hello, welcome to. And that patriarchal pathology has brought us to the existential crisis we face today. A crisis of destruction of our natural world and the living systems on which all life depends. I call this malady the Cyclops syndrome. Patriarchy is a one-eyed cyclops that sees only through one eye, the masculine one. Deranged, unhinged, and deadly, it creates havoc to our divinely created, beautiful earth, to the point where it threatens to destroy us all. How did this happen? And what happened to the goddess? Well, that question turned out to be the focus of my life's journey. When I arrived on this earthly plane, I found myself smack in the middle of the patriarchal pathology called World War II in Central Europe. So my early years were forged in a furnace of occupation, violence, and madness. And they continued to intensify through exodus and exile. But miraculously, despite the turmoil, I discovered a lifeline, an unexpected ally, a guardian angel. It took the form of a nurturing, gentle voice, the voice of an alternate reality that spoke the language of my ancestors in the form of fairy tales my mother had read me. These were empowering tales of a hero's journey in search of magic, mystery, and adventure. Encounters with powerful spirit animals and wise women who hold the secrets to enchantment, power, healing, and joy. The joy that comes from the union of masculine and feminine energies. As I grew older, that voice grew stronger, guiding me to surprising places. This is the story of that journey, a journey in search of the goddess. It was in 1989, in midlife, that a startling event propelled that journey into new dimensions. The Berlin Wall suddenly collapsed, freeing millions of people from bondage, opening up a portal of hope and change, and causing a major shift in human consciousness. I eagerly stepped through that portal to rediscover the heritage I had left behind, and found myself in an enchanted place with deep, dark forests and charming medieval castles suddenly appearing in unexpected places and reminding me of those old fairy tales my mother had read me. I discovered a cobblestone path that led to Prague's old medieval town. As I crossed a stone-arched bridge, I felt the stony stares of royal statues following me as if guarding the secrets of a land lost in time. The spires of a massive watchtower beckoned from the other side, and a graceful stone arch marked the entrance to the footsteps of the old world goddess. Inside, the old town was bustling with dazed tourists, looking like they had been dropped from a time machine. I squeezed through the crowd to discover back alleys and hidden passageways, where every turn seemed to reveal another layer of history. Excited and overwhelmed, I wandered aimlessly through the narrow streets, looking for my lost roots. Weary from my wanderings, I stumbled onto a massive old museum at the top of old Wenceslas Square. I slipped inside to have a look, wandering through endless rooms, cavernous corridors, and elegant marble floors. I arrived at a small room, off to one side. Looking around, I noticed some small figures standing patiently on plastic pedestals, just waiting to be noticed. And they seemed to perk up when I stopped to read the label. Venus figures from the mammoth hunters of Dolny Viestonice, it read, from 27,000 BC. Wow, that took my breath away. I started to imagine how many generations of people it might be that had lived there before me. It was part of a collection of broken fragments made of bone, stone, and clay. they all seem to have come from the same site and may have been deliberately broken for ritualistic purposes. Reading on, I learned that all these figures came from a settlement located in Central Europe we call Dolní Věstonice. Situated between two mountain ranges, it was a bottleneck on the migration route of the great mammoths, making it a perfect place for human habitation. This is how the site looks today, with its imposing cliffs on one side. Among the artifacts found at this site, a beautiful black bear caught my eye. His gaze was fixed intently on something, as if he seemed ready to pounce, despite missing some legs. A stately mammoth, imposing despite her actual size, stood peacefully by, grazing on succulent grasses and delicate lichen, while a baby mammoth stood among the legs of the adults for protection. Meanwhile, a wolverine, a vicious predator of the plains, stalked in the grass, waiting for an opportunity to take down an unsuspecting youngster. The wrinkled head of a woolly rhino was a startling reminder of just how perilous life on the plains could be. His sharp horn and unpredictable nature could prove deadly while hunting on the plains. And you'd better beware of the bands of saber-toothed tigers stalking about in the underbrush. The wire used to display this artifact shows that the hole representing the eye is continuous with a hole at the back of the skull. Was this perhaps a pendant to be worn for protection or to inspire courage? But even more startling was an eerie, childlike face carved from mammoth tusk. The simple features looked like a jester's mask. A crooked mouth, sleepy eyes, and a pushed-in nose. They seemed both funny and sad at the same time. And right next to him was a real-life portrait. It was so real, I felt like it was looking right at me, ready to start up a conversation. Was it a man, I wondered? Maybe a mammoth hunter? His features carved from ivory were so expressive and human. He looked weathered and weary, hardened by the daily drama of life and death among the hunter-gatherers. And what about the artist who created him? It must have been someone with amazing skill. Who were these remarkable people, I wondered? All these figures had been found in a hut appearing to be a potter's studio, with a large clay oven standing at the center, and with the broken figures scattered about. This is one possible model of the kiln. And here is an artist's sketch of the settlement, with the potter's studio on the right. A mammoth bone fence surrounded the compound for protection. But the most intriguing find of all is this beautiful face of a woman, lovingly carved in ivory. Was she the potter? A maker of amulets and sacred objects? Perhaps she was a shaman, and her hut a workshop for creating ceremonial objects. On closer inspection, she was found to have a crooked jaw, mouth, and face, very much like the jester's mask. And it turns out that both these faces had been found in the same pile of broken artifacts. Here is a diagram of the hut, with its kiln at the center and its broken objects scattered about. A small brook runs diagonally at the top, and a wall surrounds the rest. Notice that just below the kiln is a grave of a woman who was found to have a deformed jaw. She was wearing a necklace of fox's teeth and clutching a fox pelt. The fox is a common spirit guide in shamanic practice. And the grave was lined with red ochre, a sign of high regard. And for all these reasons, it is most likely that this is the same venerable person, a wise woman, a clan leader, and a shaman. But the most famous female figure from this site is a small black goddess made of clay. She does not represent a portrait, for the face is sketchy, abstract, and minimal. But most notable is a very large pregnant belly with ample hips and pendulous breasts, suggesting a focus on fertility and abundance. Her arms look more like wings, suggesting the bird-like qualities of a goddess of transformation. 4 curious holes in the top of her head seem to have held feathers, again revealing her bird-like attributes. This was undoubtedly an amulet used in ceremony for celebration and veneration of the goddess. There were many pendants found at Dolní Věstonice. Among them were very simple abstract representations of the divine feminine. A hole at the top allowed a pendant to be worn round the neck. This is a major clue in understanding what these people believed and held sacred. As much as a Christian might wear a cross, or a Wiccan might wear a pentacle, a pendant is a declaration of identity. So these, then, were children of the goddess. And the discovery of many double-breasted pendants indicates that this is an icon of a commonly held belief, the belief in a feminine deity. This particular pendant defines this belief even further. Notice that there are 9 notches decorating each breast, suggesting the 9 moons of gestation. Then notice the double lines on each breast, a symbol called the power of 2, or the power of co-creation, according to archaeologist Maria Gimbutas. As one of the first women archaeologists, she broke with traditional male interpretations of ancient artifacts, which tended to objectify and sexualize female imagery. Instead, she brought a feminine viewpoint, which was centered around the qualities of caring for and fostering life. What could be more sacred to the divine feminine than the image of a child nursing from its mother? And yet, a mother nursing her child in public today may well be the object of scorn and ridicule. And the sound of sucking has become a profanity in our own culture of feminine disempowerment. And so the goddess had left me a trail of breadcrumbs. And I was hooked. I had to keep going. So I invite you to come with me on the second part of my journey, which I call shamanism, the spiritual practice of the goddess, and the dawn of cave art. See you there.